Welcome to Stage Dive, a podcast where we go deep on the art of live performance to help artists perform better on stage. I am your host, Jack Dawkins. I am a rapper, poet, and storyteller out of Boulder, Colorado. Our guest today is Morgan Gold. She is an extraordinarily talented vocalist coming from Chicago, Illinois, which is where she is originally from, even though she happens to be an enormous Packers fan. If you listen to the episode, you will find out why. Morgan is constantly releasing new music. She just put out a new single called Leo, which is available on all streaming platforms. And she is also hosting a residency at Subterranean in Chicago, celebrating female artists in the city of Chicago. It's a beautiful project. It's really, really exciting. And they have one more show left this year that you can attend. For all of those details and more, please tune into the episode. Again, here is my conversation with Morgan. So it feels like the most appropriate question to start with is these Packers. What's going on this season? What are we doing? What's happening?
Well, in the words of Aaron Rodgers, we're not dead. Being a fan of that team, it's never easy. It's never just we're good or we're bad. It's like just constantly being on the edge of your seat. I don't want to overshoot my confidence here, but the last time I felt this way about our team, we won the Super Bowl. We snuck in the playoffs with the wild card. So I don't know, man. After this week, it like everything's kind of evening out. As much as I hate to say it, I don't think the Vikings are gonna lose that much. I think they're gonna be top of the division. Um, I don't know what's. I don't know. The Bears and the Lions are kind of fighting for last place right now. It's pretty funny.
I was in Chicago for 9 years, and like the number of happy memories I have about the Bears, limited.
Are you a Bears fan?
I'm not a formal fan, as more so like I end up. I know this will be sacrilege for a lot of people. I tend to get excited about whatever team is the home team where I'm living, just because like this hometown pride. So I grew up in New York, and like so outside of the Yankees, I would say I'm pretty flexible on fandom, and even that one I get a lot of shit for, but so it goes. But wait, so where are you from?
So fun fact, I was actually born in LA, but I have no memory of that. So, like, the memories of life started for me in Buffalo Grove, Illinois. That's where like I grew up, and then I went to Schaumburg schools between like kindergarten through high school, and then graduated on to Chicago. So I've been in Illinois for primarily all my life.
So how did you become a Packers fan?
Well, I've got a lot of family in Iowa, right? And they don't have an NFL team. So it's pretty split evenly between Packers, Bears. There's a few Vikings fans. No Lions.
No love for Detroit.
No. But yeah, I don't know. Like I like the green and gold colors, and I think maybe I don't think I don't think I was thinking this, but gold, green and gold. I think my mind just kind of resonated with those colors, and the team's got a great history. I mean, we're the reason why the Lombardi Trophy is called the Lombardi Trophy.
That's facts.
You know what I mean? It's a really cool legacy to be a fan of. But we get so much. And by the way, I can swear on this, right?
Oh fuck yeah!
Oh yeah, Packers fans get so much shit, and it's quite hilarious because we have pretty decent stories to tell from each season, coming from some teams who have just had garbage years. So
Garbage. Oh
yeah,
my god, that's awesome. So like, I was reading more of your bio, and actually, like, I should thank Mike Quill, who I'm interviewing next week, for asking the question, like, what did you study?
shout out Mike.
Right? Good human. Like, yes. So you studied comedy writing, is that right?
Comedy writing and performance. Yeah, that was my college major.
How did you get there?
So, I mean, growing up, I knew I wanted to perform, right? So I bounced a lot between choir, musical theater, some of my own songwriting that I did, like for myself. And then I started to fall in love with improv. And then SNL was like my thing growing up. Like I loved SNL, I love the history. I love the 90s, early 2000s era specifically. Um, and so I attended Second City for like one summer, loved it, and they told me that you could actually study at Second City for a semester if you go through Columbia College's comedy program. And I think at the time, because I think a college in Boston now offers one too, but for a really long time, Columbia was the only school in the country that offered a comedy major. And I knew that I'd always have songwriting, and I didn't really want to go through a formal music program. I don't know why. I just didn't want to be like restricted to formulas or a
Mm.
certain way of navigating it. With comedy, that was something that really interested me because making people laugh and the psychology behind it and how to execute a bit successfully, I was really into that. Um, and by the time I graduated, I knew that I never wanted to do comedy again.
I'm gonna put a pin in that to come back, but like, because there's a story there, or probably a number of stories. Um,
Well, it's just not. I mean, I'll be real. I'll answer it right now. I'm just not that kind of performer. There's certain
mm,
performers that are able to. There are certain performers who can habitually solicit laughter. I'm not one of those people. I don't like to always just, even though I love to make people laugh, and 9 times out of 10, my jokes are just fucking stupid. They're not even funny. But like, well, something too I'll say about that is like, and I've said this so many times before, there's nothing more humbling than an audience not laughing at you.
mm,
I would
facts.
much rather, and I've had some pretty bomb music performances, and I don't mean good bomb, like I've bombed, and that did not feel as bad as me saying something like during an improv bit that wasn't funny. And most performers who like are comedians and can do that, that's just something that like fuels them even more to be funny. For me, that's just like, nah, I'm good. Because when I like talk when I talk to audiences, I like for there to be a more natural connection, whereas I feel like improv, it's like you have to stage everything perfectly.
Mm,
You know what I mean? And I like having more of a genuine connection. You know what I mean?
for sure. Um,
So it's a
well,
lot of student debt came from that realization.
yep, I can imagine.
Yeah.
I think like whatever. We're gonna let the conversation wander where it will. I feel like between song banter is such an underutilized place for developing connection and story. And like, I'm not saying you should script it. I'm not saying that like you have to have a whole fucking song and dance between every piece that you're gonna perform. But like, man, take people with you. I feel like a lot of people are like, this next song comes out soon, song. And
Yeah.
then the next one's like, this song is out, song. And you're like, awesome. Like, but give me more.
And
Tell
you
me
and
something.
you know what too? That was one of the things like that kind of going back to my comedy roots for a second. That was one thing that comedy taught me was that the most important thing about being a performer is taking care of your audience, especially when you're trying to make people laugh because trust has to be established. But that the same argument can be made between singer and audience is that if the audience doesn't trust that you're going to give them a good time or a meaningful experience, they're not only not going to pay attention, but they're going to judge you. And like, I've even had some really good performances where maybe my singing wasn't like it was a 92 when it could have been a 96. You
Mm,
know what I mean? But even then, and I in 92 is even being generous, but I'm just really hard on myself. But the point is that if you give the audience a good time and you still can pull off your performance, it won't even matter if a little mistake was made.
mm,
And the same can be said about every type of performance. Like if the audience is just having fun, then it might as well be you entertaining guests at a party in your home where everyone's comfortable, where everyone's having a good time. They feel like they can take their shoes off. They feel like, I mean, even if they may not know who this person is on stage, they feel like they get where they're coming from.
mm,
Um, that's a very it's a very powerful feeling, and it makes it makes performing easier each time because the nerves don't get as bad
Yeah,
when you know that you're just here to make people comfortable.
for sure. I'm curious, like you've obviously had a lot of opportunity to perform. How much of that trust building is like a set of like intentional actions or like design versus how much is like your comfort in your own skin and people like feeding off of that ease that they feel within you?
Um, you're talking about like the effect of what happens when the audience feeds off of that energy.
How do you make people, how do you allow people to trust you? Like what do you do as a performer to help create that
Oh,
space?
gotcha. Thank you for clarifying. I mean,
Mhm.
I just get really into it. I'm there to put on a good show, and so I don't want, it's no nonsense. I'm giving you a good show. That's the first thing in my mind. Second thing is like, yeah, now I'm a big talker, but I say to myself, like between each song, it's like I don't want to over explain what the song is about. But a lot of my music comes from very, very real places that I bring from my own experiences. And like why I do music is because I need to get those stories out. So if I have an opportunity, I got an audience right in front of me, I can really tell you what this is about. I'm going to tell you. Um, and I like being personable. Like even to just like people in my neighborhood and people that I, bump into at the store. Same thing on stage. I
Mm,
like to it's like if you give off positive enough energy, then it's even like even shows where you're playing at a bar, you know what I mean? And you may as the performer not be the center focus of attention. If you know that you're killing it and the people in the audience are laughing and they're drinking and they're having a great time. And even a few of them kind of look up and they nod at you. Like, maybe you get like a little like dollar bill in the guitar case. It's little things like that where you as a performer remember, like, I'm literally just contributing good energy.
mm.
And that's your only job. And as long as you contribute good energy, whether it's 100 people clapping at you, or maybe someone, or maybe one person coming up to you after the show and being like, "That was so freaking good!" Like I'm blown away. It's all the same. It's just as meaningful.
Yeah. Um, do you have a favorite kind of show? I want to like I so agree with you. And like I think part of the joy of being a performer is reading the room and just understanding like
Yeah.
what does this community of humans need right now? Do they need like me to do my set and move the fuck on? Do they want me to kind of chat and banter with them? Like do they want to connect? And just reading that. But I'm curious like of all the different flavors of performance you've tried, like is there a type of show that you get most excited about?
It really varies, like depending on my mood. Like sometimes, I mean, okay, I'm always gonna be hyped up for the bigger shows. Like, you know, I got to do Promontory, which was great. Um, I've been at the Metro, which I love shows like that, even though the Metro actually was one of my worst performances. We can talk about that later. Um, a lot of times though, I love just shows where it's me and my guitar at a bar, or it's me and my band. I love those gigs. A lot of times I like the gigs where your audience is also eating. 'Cause I don't know, like there's something that like and like from an audience's perspective, I love when I go and I sit down at a restaurant and there's some really good music being played. It just adds to
Mm,
the atmosphere, and it makes me want to be even better because then it's like people are gonna come and remember, like, I mean, the food's good, they're gonna remember good food, a good time, and good music. And so being a part of that is like, I don't care if you're not looking at me the whole entire time. If I'm good enough, I know that I'm gonna be turning heads at least from everybody once.
yeah.
And it's less
Yeah,
pressure
yeah.
too. It's like I feel like at restaurants I can exercise my material. a little bit. And that's really good room reading too, because you're not just reading people who are watching you, but you're kind of seeing like what other people are focused on. If they're in a bad mood, why are they in a bad mood? Is it because of the table they're at? Like, so the people watching from those gigs are very fun.
Yeah. There's a skill set though, like in the ability to like both perform and like kind of keep an awareness of what's happening within the room. Um, like random reference, but Chelsea Cutler, I've seen live, and like her ability to like talk to the sound person and engage with the front row and signal to her drummer and like go off on it. Like she's in 7 places at once, but you don't lose her presence. Like you don't lose the performance. And I feel like that's such a valuable skill set. Like, where do you think that comes from for you? Because I don't think every performer can look around the room and be trying to like understand those motivations and what's happening to people while you're performing for them.
Yeah, I think to an extent, um, you have to care just as much about the audience's experience as you do about your own experience. Like to your example of Chelsea Cutler, it's very clear that she's just trying to make sure that the audience is included in the show. You know what I mean? That's what it sounds like you were saying.
Yeah.
And um, they if they're paying to come see you, they better feel included because it's like strapping in for a roller coaster ride. You know what I mean? It's a huge thrill for a little bit, and then it's over. You know what
Mm,
I mean? Through all of that adrenaline, you really can't. I mean, especially if you're putting on like a really loud and crazy show, like you can't slow down that momentum. Um, I think for me personally, it's different because I'm gonna say I'm still very young and I've done a lot of different gigs and dealt with a lot of different fan behavior.
mm,
And also I've had shows where to be honest, I just was not into it. And so sometimes I'm a little bit less talkative, I'm a little bit less shy. Now, having said that though, going back to kind of your example and how that kind of need ties into my own performance, I'm motivated to do well and I'm motivated to look good. Not just, and I'm not really talking physically, I'm talking like I want the audience to know that I care. You
mm.
know what I mean? That's really
Yep.
important for me because it's my job and it's an emotion based sport. It's an emotion based job. So I want people to know that I care about it and I want people to know that I care about my craft. And I also want people to know that I care about them. Like if you're going to be standing and watching someone for 45 minutes, I want you to have fun. I want you to feel something. I want you to tap into your emotions. I love making people feel good. It's That could have been my answer right there. I love making people feel good.
Mm.
Um, and I'll do that at every chance I can get. That's where the motivation to do music comes from. That's where the motivation to perform comes from. Yeah, it's just about as easy as that.
Mm. That's awesome.
Took me a while to get there, but I got
That's why we do this, and that's why
there.
you let it go where it needs to go. It's all to the good.
Exactly.
I wanted to circle back to something because if I'm remembering right, you said like I knew I wanted to perform forever. Like that was just something an innate knowing that I had. The words coming up that don't feel like the right question are like, how
No,
did
I feel
that
you.
materialize for you? But it's more so just like I guess a question I can morph it into is like, do you remember a moment or like watching someone else and being like, oh my God, that's what I want to do? Or were you always just like outspoken, extroverted, like already kind of like performing in life?
I mean, both. I I'm a s- I'm a social butterfly, and I've always been a social butterfly. I like to be the center of attention. I like to be like the exuberant dinner host. And I guess just like when you grow up, you hear about like certain like historical celebrities too that like influenced your older family members, and for me that was like Elvis and the Beatles. Those were kind of like the first two big ones, and then like Ray Charles, Stevie Wonder, Lauryn Hill, um, a lot of 90s hip hop, a lot of country too. I mean, and when I'm watching all of these legends, just the older I get, you would think that like the dream of fame kind of becomes less and less and less attainable. For me, as I grew up watching those icons, I was like, I'm getting closer and closer and closer and closer to being able to do that. Um,
Mm.
like big crowds and big stages um, inspire me that if you get a bunch of people together through something like music and you can change people's life for a night, who wouldn't want to do that? I certainly want to do that, and so that's why I chose this line of work.
Amen. Preach. I want to remember R&B and cinematic pop is the way you describe the sound.
Oh, ethereal R&B, yeah.
There you go.
But I went through like 8 different titles, like because when especially when we were making Midas, I was like, I have no idea what to like call it. Like, is it ethereal pop R&B? Is it ethereal? Because I've always described it as ethereal or cinematic pop R&B, and then finally we just stuck with ethereal R&B because it sounded cool. It sounded cool. Someone in 2018 described me as that, and I hadn't gotten over it since. And I feel like lately too, like everyone now is using the word ethereal, which is amazing because it's a beautiful word. Like it should be talked about more. Like it's one of the dictionary definitions of it is like too beautiful and delicate for this earth. We need more of
Mm.
that. This world is fucked up.
It's a little rough out here.
Very
in,
much.
in a lot of ways, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, like it's an interesting place to dig into. I haven't been making music for crazy long. Like started call it 2 years ago, but there's no question. Like there's so much pressure on artists, particularly in the early days, to like understand sonic branding. What's your sound? Who do you sound like? And
Yeah.
like I think not unlike declaring college majors, it's like you have no fucking idea. It's like you can take a stab, but you need to invest the time to actually like
Yeah.
figure out what you are.
Well, and I think even when you do figure it out, you might change your mind in a year. Like I think what a lot of people forget is that we're on the internet, right? Um, and we're developing as artists. And we're developing as artists in real time. Like this isn't like the olden days where, the label had been, you know, fluffing up a new artist for years and then all of a sudden they debut and then it's like, whoa, it's like this big like firecracker. Like no, now that we're on the internet, we see artists that are just brewing in front of billions of people in front of the world every single day. Do you think that just because we're on the internet now in front of all these people that we're just gonna suddenly be right all the time, or we're gonna get it right, or we're gonna nail it? No, because finally, for the first time, everything is being broadcasted. I mean, too much. We're broadcasting too much of ourselves. I
Mm.
tweet like a motherfucker. I wish I tweeted less. It's the only social media app that keeps up with the pace of my thoughts. But anyhow, I said, I said that the sound is a ethereal R&B. Next, it could be like it'll be something completely different then in like 5 years, and then the next 5 years it'll be something different, or then maybe in 15 years I'll come back to another sound I did. I'll put out a country album in like 7 years. Just watch, and it'll be fucking fire. But like,
Mm-hmm.
you should, as an artist, feel a certain amount of pressure to figure your shit out, because how else are you going to stay motivated to do anything?
Mm.
You have to have a healthy amount of pressure, but it's like you'll have it, you'll work it, and then just like the best music artists of all time, there's eras to this shit. Fucking switch it up. Books have chapters. You know what I mean? Everything is supposed to move fluently, like energy. It just kind of transforms. You know what I mean? Like you could have your shit figured out. You could have your brand, and then you're gonna rebrand, and then you're gonna rebrand, and then you're gonna rebrand. So it sounds fucking a lot, but that's what's fun about it. You know what I mean? You got to find whatever brand, whatever sound, whatever angle makes it fun and makes it motivating enough for you to want to do it every day
Mm.
and not be afraid to change it too when it's ready.
Right, right. Or when you feel genuinely called to move it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if you chase the external signals, oof, tough. That's a tough road.
Yeah.
Um, but I want to come back to what you were saying about like, I agree with you. I think that as an artist, some level of pressure is required. And the other thing I sometimes get curious about is you hear like, man, I wish I could just sit and create music all day. I'm like, oh, I don't. I think I'd get fucking bored out of my mind. Like, I think you do need the texture of like, how do you reach people? How do you engage? How do you brand yourself? Like those questions and that pursuit is exciting, but like all things, there's a shadow side. Like that's why burnout
Yeah.
happens. That's why people quit. So like, how do you as an artist navigate the balance between like being engaged, being hungry, being curious, but not blowing up?
I mean, I trust in myself that I will do whatever I need to do to stay healthy and have as long of a career as possible. But if I know that if I know that I'm not in a place to be creative or that I just can't get something done, I mean, I just have to tell myself to step away from it for a second. Like one of the blessings about me is that so I'm engaged to my producer, my engineer, and we're living where our studio is. So the music will be there and we'll be there for it. I think the way that I've tried to think about it is that if you know in your heart, if you're an artist and you know in your heart that you are going to be in music for the long run, then you should know that it's necessary to like walk away from it. A couple of days won't kill you. I got great advice from an old friend, because I was saying how I want to get there and I feel like I need to just be, all gas, no brakes. And she looked at me and she said, "There's more to a road trip than just driving."
Mm. Ooh, that's a bar.
Right?
Sheesh. Holy smokes.
Yeah. Shout out Alex. Yeah, she's like, you got to get gas. You might need to stop for snacks or go to the bathroom. Like, very rarely are you just going to be able to go on this huge ass journey and then just zoom through there. A lot of shit could happen and a lot of shit will happen, and that's okay. But if you're determined to get there, you'll get there. And I feel like I'm just starting to kind of gain the momentum that I've needed for a while, and I'm still very far from where I want to be. But that's okay because the really really far goal that seems like it's out of my reach is why I wake up with my head high. So I'll handle any kind of pressure I need to.
Mm, that's awesome. What do you feel like your edges are as an artist? As in, like, where do you want to continue to push yourself and develop? Or are you in a season where you're not focused on pushing into edges? You're more so like celebrating where you're at and helping people become more aware of what you're already doing.
I mean, I'm in both of those stages, I think. I mean, I really do try to celebrate myself more because I feel like I'm always just kind of focused on getting something done. But, I mean, we're already working on our second album. We just released a song that like we're literally going out to dinner to celebrate our anniversary tonight. And we just dropped a song about it. You know what I mean? Like that's definitely something to celebrate, which is nice. Um, I think though areas that areas that I have an edge in. No, I'm just playing. Um, I think like I mean I think
So many.
I've been writing for a really long time and I've studied a lot of different artists. And I've been analyzing different genres since I was 10 because that fascinated me. Like the ability to get the attention of 50,000 people and get them screaming. That was something that I really focused on, and I think that's kind of what gave me an edge too, because I was so obsessed with really famous people,
Mm.
really famous people, and like I was a fucking One Direction stan. God damn it, I understand psycho fan behavior, and but like I don't regret, and I don't regret that shit, or do I have any shame about saying that, because it taught me so much about what fans want. Um, Even like fans that, like, what's going too far. What are you gonna say that might piss a fan off? Like that. So studying, getting. I mean, and I didn't know it at the time, but I was studying it. But having perfect pitch definitely helps.
Hmm. That's a nice thing to have.
Yeah, no, that's made songwriting and recording just about everything like a million times easier. Like um my girl will be like in a session, and she'll even FaceTime me, and she'll be like, "Hey Morgan, what key is this song in?" And then she'll play it, and then I'll just tell her like, "Oh, it's F sharp minor." Got you.
That's awesome. Um,
It's fun, but like I make sure too that like I can anytime that I can pass that knowledge on to somebody, I will. I've made so many friends in this industry, and like we're all, I feel like, especially in Chicago too, we're finally learning to use each other as resources. And so any kind of strength that we have, I feel like I've gotten a lot of strengths from my friends, whereas I feel like a lot of my friends have gotten strengths from me. And that's how it should be. You know what I mean?
mm, 100%. I want to ask more about community building, but before, I want to ask if you had to list like top three lessons you learned from being a huge One Direction fan. Like, what were the major takeaways?
Oh my God, top three. That's the best question I've ever gotten. Top three lessons from being a One Direction fan. Oh, okay. My first lesson is never try to force celebrities into believing that they are in a gay relationship. That's my first rule. Do you know about that whole thing
I don't.
that happened? Oh, okay. So for a long time, and now granted, who knows if it did happen? If it did, great. If it didn't, great. But there was a big rumor that Harry and Louis were like in a secret relationship, and fans took it so far to where they were bullying any of their girlfriends, or they would like make really weird fan like porn basically. And like I don't know, you could tell it really affected them, and even from like a fan's perspective, I was like, this is not cool. Like you should like,
Mm,
and then like, and then anytime like I feel like they were like, no, we're in relationships. They were like, oh no, you're lying. What kind of sick bastard do you have to be to go tell somebody that you don't know how they are living their life? Just because like fan entitlement is crazy. Yeah, don't force celebrities into or don't try to manipulate celebrities into thinking that they're in any kind of relationship, gay, straight, whatever. Um, and this kind number two kind of ties into that. You gotta understand that as a fan, that does not give you any kind of permission to act like an ass
mm,
to fellow people or to the celebrity, to the singer, to the artist. Like, yes, we are buying your merch. Yes, we're buying your tickets. But like just that you got to understand that the artist is a human too. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, you have no idea what they're going through or how they may feel. And it's so funny because at the time, like, most of us were like 14 or 16 trying to tell these like 20, 22-year-old boys like what Don't smoke weed. It's so bad.
Oh, it's
Remember, remember,
adorable.
no, remember when like all of those like pictures of celebrities started coming out before weed was legal and fans were like freaking out? Yeah. Another another kind of little fan entitlement behavior right there. And then what's number three? Um, if you're gonna buy a bunch of posters like for your room, make sure like to use like really good tape or use adhesives because otherwise that shit's gonna get messy when you gotta move out and your walls are just gonna look like
Mm.
shit after that.
There goes the
So
security deposit.
yeah, yeah,
Oh my God, that's amazing.
yeah.
Um, one more question on that. Now, as an artist, like, do you feel like you learned anything from watching them about how you do or don't want to treat your fans?
I mean, I just thought I had a question, but I kind of had to think about it because that's a good one. I mean, at the end of the day, we got to treat each other like people. Um, it's crazy because now on social media too, like we're not only just interacting with potential new fans, but we're uh, communicating with fellow emerging members of the industry who also could be fans of you. So you know what I mean? Like I mean, the internet's becoming so saturated, and these social spaces are becoming so saturated. So it's kind of simple. You have to treat each other with respect. Fans should treat artists with respect, and artists should treat fans with respect. I definitely want to make sure that people again feel like they're in this with me, especially my fans. Like we're all going on this crazy journey. Like the gold brand is expanding, and which means the gold universe is expanding. Um, and there are gonna be, there are gonna be some, I'm sure, crazy Hollywood fiasco scandals that are going to get blown over proportion, and we're going to ride through that. There's going to be a bad tour, maybe, where it's like Steve Lacy and people are throwing things at him, and we'll get through that. Like, I don't see any need to like not treat fans with respect, but at the same time though, that also doesn't mean that if fans aren't if they end up being disrespectful, I won't say something. I think that a lot of
Mm.
celebrity I think that a lot of celebrities too, I'll be real, like they see fans their fans attacking other fans and they're like, "Yeah, go get them." It's like, "Why are we encouraging fights right now?"
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like if I ended up having that kind of influence, I would definitely be like, okay, everybody, chill the hell out. Unless it's about football, then I am ripping motherfuckers apart on there. So I'm a hypocrite on Sundays when it comes to love, peace, and harmony.
That I mean, I think because of the internet, we're all hypocrites. I feel like
Yeah,
that as like a term of negativity is going to dissolve because like what human on earth in the history of time has been entirely consistent, full stop with everything in their life from birth to death? I'm pretty sure it's nobody. So like we're
nobody.
all gonna fuck up. We're all gonna change. It's okay.
But
Just
but
accept it.
we but we hold ourselves to such high standards, and it's it's maddening because like if one person maybe says something wrong, or even I mean, like, there are shitty people out there who need to get corrected, but and there was just a discourse on Twitter the other day about like this whole like cancel culture, but I think what it comes down to when it comes to things like cancel culture, which and to an extent it's very necessary, but it's like it's just a way for people to get their anger out because we have a voice, and
Mm.
we desperately want to be better people, and so we feel like checking other people is how we do it, which is how we do it, but then still got to forgive, we still got to encourage and educate what positive change looks like. You know what I mean? And setting an example for peace, love, and positivity is something too that I think we ought to do a lot more. There's a lot of like there's a lot of shitty behavior on the internet just because we got cameras and we're trying to be funny and it'll go viral because We like seeing shitty behavior that we're not taking part in, but it's like, at what cost?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I feel like we're learning, and like the cost is fucking high. It's the answer to that. Like it's tough.
We're learning, but our version of learning on the internet is talking about it and then moving on. I think
Mm.
the only way we're really going to learn is if we just start, I think, being nicer to each other. And that comes from us being better people and us getting our shit checked every once in a while. And that's going to happen, but like the goal is to surround ourselves on the planet with people that we like and people that we can get along with. If we all had that goal in mind, I think we treat each other differently.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with
The shit just got deep.
that. Well, I mean, like, that's the funny thing about music, right? It's like, I hear this in what you're sharing. Like, making music, like the actual act of recording, writing, etc., is a piece of it. But like the calling is like, I want to affect change. Like, I want someone to walk into a venue and walk out a different human being. Like that
Hmm.
to me, more than what I just came out with or what album or whatever, like that's the piece that for me is the fucking spark. That's life, right? It's like there is no job where like affect change is your job description. Like we affect change through a medium. Some people do that with business, some people do that with art, some people do that in 101 different ways. And I think I wonder sometimes, like, if we were able to connect to the idea of like, I think a lot of people are just trying to do okay. Like we're all just trying, right? Like we're all out here just like putting forth an effort to do something that isn't awful or toxic or miserable, and that like there's a lot more that binds us than there is that separates us.
Mm.
Um, I wish that were part of the dialogue, but the piece of the internet that I find some days hilarious and some days really tough is like we love lists and we love ranking and we love saying this is better than that or this is more true than that,
Yeah.
and like god damn we love having that conversation, and we
Especially
create
around
these
music.
divisions where it's like if I ever get to go on the Breakfast Club or any big radio show and they ask who my top 5 is, I'm not answering because who the fuck cares? Like it doesn't matter who my top 5 is. Like there's so
Yeah.
many talented artists, there's so much great music, like I don't care. Like I just
Instead,
don't
pe- in,
not it feels like
instead
nothing good
people
comes out of that.
instead people should just ask, who do you like? Who are you listening to? Who are your inspirations? Because yeah, I agree with you. Like especially when it comes to, oh, here comes my dog. Um,
Oh, Bubba.
especially when it especially when it comes to like talks about like which album was better than which. Like I get, well, I get that you're trying to get likes and comments. You know, that's very much obvious. And I also get that it may be interesting to see, within a particular genre, what was the preferable album. Like I get that, but you're right. It fuels negativity in a lot of ways because and thanks to like Stan Twitter, you're just putting down people. It's just an opportunity to say that somebody sucks or that somebody was mid, which is the laziest fucking descriptive word out there. um Even though there are some projects that are very mid, but but I feel like you're right. Like rather than asking for lists, or rather than asking what do you prefer over the other, I feel like people should be asking for more specific elements.
Yeah.
What had better songwriting, like, or if you're gonna ask what
Mm.
was the better album or what was the better single, then be like, what was the better songwriting? What intrigued you more? What performance did you like better? I feel like just asking simply what was better kind of, I don't know, it just makes the conversation lazy, and it just gives really immature people the opportunity to state opinions that aren't really backed up by anything logical, which is fine. If you just want to say that you hate something because you hate it, perfectly valuable. But if you're gonna start a discourse on music, then yeah, opening up the dialogue for more detailed discussions, I think, would benefit us greatly, especially when you're surrounded by other artists on the internet who are looking to improve. Because if you got
Mm.
if you got fans who act like bots, just saying, "Oh, it's mid," Well, that's not helpful. Why'd you find it mid? Were the lyrics ass? Dude, hate the person's voice? Like, if you're gonna say somebody's mid, just say you gotta say why. And and some people do. Sometimes people just. That's the other thing too. Is I feel like though I have become way even though like sometimes I do get pretty bitchy about criticism. But hey, I've seen a couple of negative comments about, me and my music on the internet. And you know what I thought to myself? There's 8 billion people in the world. Nobody's going to agree on everything. So maybe to your point, we just need to get used to just seeing more opinions and seeing more which do you prefer over the other. Because at the end of the day, somebody's going to prefer something over something. And rather than letting it work us up and get to us and make us question ourselves and the logic of other people. I mean, shit, it's just different opinions.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's like you're so completely right. I don't know, like that is where my completely irrational ego is like, I hope I do get asked that question someday. So I'm gonna be like, rather than answer that, why don't I tell you 5 artists you've probably not heard of that I think are doing amazing things?
Yeah,
Why don't I tell you about this songwriter who's a credit on 10 songs, but you don't know their name because they're buried? Like I hope, fingers crossed, like that people start to realize, like in the context of an interview, like you as the interviewee have a lot of agency. You can be like, I heard the question you asked and I'm not going to answer it. I will instead answer a different question that I think is going to serve like either like a community or my fans or people in general. Like I that form, like I don't know if activism is the right way to think of that, but at least like being more of an active participant and like I do have a say in what I choose to share and how I choose to be in this conversation, and we can do better. So let's fucking do better.
right. And you said it too earlier. Like we're learning. We're learning how to communicate with each other in this massive scale. I mean, we were not intended to do this. We're kind of figuring it out for ourselves. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but that's the really exciting part about growing up in a time like this and growing as an adult, a young adult in a time like this.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm grateful. I'm grateful to be alive in the time that I am right now.
That's beautiful. Well, so let me switch gears a little bit. So like you have a residency where you're creating an opportunity to showcase and to celebrate a lot of different artists. Like how did that opportunity come to be? Tell me all about it.
Yeah, so that's girls' night, and me and No Montana, who is a fellow artist and curator here in Chicago, the two of us met through a series of showcases called Overly Dedicated, and we were the only two females on the lineup, and so we were like, like every time, and we were like, I don't think I've ever done a show where it was all girls, and so we decided to put that on, and we originally did it at Canvas, which is in Melrose Park, but then earlier 2022 we got the okay to go at Subterranean, which is something that I still can't believe to this day, but the thing was is that we wanted to put um a show on that was a safe space for creatives, new creatives, to test their material, to test their crowd work, um and I mean, one of the craziest questions that artists are constantly asking themselves is how do I get booked? How do I perform? How do I get myself out there? And having, the knowledge that I've gotten over the years about how to talk with venues, about how to put on shows, and I'm still not perfect at it. I'm still working it, but I was just like, wow, I can put my friends on stage and I can put artists that I've never met before, but I could make great connections with on stage. I could really continue to make my dream come true by putting up spaces for great music, and especially doing it when I felt like coming up, I was really the only female person in the room. So
Mm,
we were like, let's make it a safe space for female and non-binary artists in Chicago. And it's just it's been amazing because the positive support and encouragement, not just from the fellow artists or the staff of the show, but the audience. Everybody there just wants to be surprised and see new talent. And so they're curious and they
mm,
know that that's what they're there to see. So that's why we wanted to continue it. And we knew that it was special. Like, we packed out Subterranean on a Monday night. And we're like, who the hell else is doing that on a Monday night? And I'm proud of it. I'm so proud of it. And we got the last one of the year coming up on the 21st. Um, and we're most likely going to continue it for like another year or two. Um, and that's just the way I like going back to earlier, like that's the way I think of it. I just want to put my friends on stage.
mm. For those who don't live in Chicago, can you explain why having this at the Subterranean feels so special?
Subterranean is a very iconic venue. It's actually got the longest running hip hop open mic night out of any venue in the city. And I mean, pretty much every artist who was just getting big, like right before they really peaked, has performed there. Like my friend was telling me that when nobody knew who Party Next Door was performing for a very tiny crowd at the downstairs bar. And so to even think that, like, we're stepping in the same um stages as these guys is incredible. But Um, I had actually gone to like one of my first concerts in Chicago was a Subterranean. It was actually Cupcake, and I said to myself, I am going to like headline Subterranean in like 4 years, and not even 4 years have gone by, and I can say that I performed there probably like 5 or 6 times, and I've got a residency there. So that, just to say that I've made that dream come true, and I even elevated that dream, that's why that was special.
Mm, that's beautiful. Um, Two questions came out of that. So one, you're now working with a lot of artists, which is great. What can an artist do for you as like the organizer, the MC, to make your life really easy to get them on stage? Like, how can they be a great supporter of the event for you?
I mean, bring people. If you can bring at least 4 or 5 people each and do your part in promoting it, or even if you get maybe just like 1 or 2 other people, but you put an active amount of work into posting it, into sharing the link with your family and friends, with your social media followers, showing that you want to be on stage is already like a very attractive thing for a promoter to see,
Mm,
or a booker. Um, Having your music ready to share, um, having performance experience, um, being able to keep up with communication, um, crowd work. And I mean, in a lot of those things though, like we don't even always see like until we put the person up on stage, and then we're like, oh wait, yeah, like they're fire. And I can honestly say that
mm,
there has been, truthfully, there have been no bad girls' night performances. I've been impressed by everybody that stepped on that stage, mainly just because like we'll be scouting artists and we can just kind of tell like who's ready. And like we've even like,
mm,
we were in talks with like artists too for maybe like a few months, and then we put them on stage. And I knew I made the right decision to put them on there because there's a lot of artists to go around. So like artists got to keep in mind that we're real, like we gotta orchestrate the show too based on what makes sense for who can draw people, who makes sense sounding together all on one bill. There's a lot that goes into it. Um, but and even just asking for a slot is really, really a powerful thing. Asking for a
mm,
slot, asking for time, asking to perform. If you're an artist and you want to perform at a venue, you walk up to the venue and say, "Who do I talk to for booking?" And I guarantee you'll walk out of that venue with a number or an email or both.
You
Bada
stole
bing,
my
bada
second
boom.
question, which was like, no, I look, closed mouths don't get fed. And
Exactly.
it's weird, right? Because like on social media, I think there is an interesting tension of like you can absolutely say too much, you can over promote something, you can like, and people get sick of it.
Yeah.
And but as a result of that, sometimes I think it makes artists shy about just asking, can I get on? Like, do you have a slot? Do you need an opener? Like, and a lot of the time, at least in my experience, anytime I've organized an event, I'm missing half the shit I need. And if someone was like, hey, do you need that? I'd be like, yep, you get it. Cause I don't have time to figure that shit out. Like sometimes it's just being the puzzle piece the person needs. Um,
Exactly. Exactly.
It's a valuable tool. It's a valuable tool. Well, look, Morgan, let me do this. I did not forget that you said you had a rough performance at the Metro, and I want to talk to you more. And I know that you're a little short on time, so let me do this. Let people know where they can find you. I know you just dropped a new single you referenced. Is dope, by the way. Everyone should listen to it. But where can people find more of you?
You can find all that Morgan Gold music at Morgan Gold Music. My yeah, that all my social media platforms are Morgan Gold Music. It's Morgan Gold on all platforms. MorganGold, not GOULD, like former Bears kicker Robbie Gold that fucking blew it for them that one year. It's Morgan Gold, GOLD.
Beautiful. And this is my follow-up question. Um,
Sorry, Robbie.
if people could do, he'll be all right. He got paid. He's fine.
Yeah, he's making more money than me,
Um,
man.
for now, for now. Um, of all the ways people could follow you, is there one thing people could do that you would really appreciate?
Share my music with your best friend. You can share my music on your feed all day, and I love that. But if you can actually think of somebody and be like, I think that this person would like that song, and I don't have to see it. I don't have to see that you shared it. But I just always really appreciate when I've heard of people doing that. That I feel like always means the most to me. So yeah, pick a song, share it with your best friend.
That's the word. Share it with your best friend. Morgan, thank you so much for your time, for all of your thoughts, and for being such a good sport. I appreciate you. And go listen to her music. Go see her at Subterranean. And we'll do this again.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you so much for joining us today on Stage Dive, and I hope that you enjoyed it. New episodes drop each and every Wednesday. You can find highlights and clips of these conversations on TikTok and Instagram using the handle at Stage Dive Podcast. If you have any questions for us, want to be featured on the show, or have anything else to send, you can always email us at stagedivepodcast@gmail.com. This is Jack Dawkins, and no matter how you're performing in the world today, I want you to know that you are loved. Take care.